What you are about to discover was not erased by accident. It was erased with purpose because it revealed a power that the system could never control, the power that was hidden inside you all along. For 2,000 years, history has been told by the victors, written in stone and doctrine, and proclaimed from pulpits of authority. But beneath the weight of empires and the silence of forgotten centuries, a different story has been breathing, waiting. It is a truth carried not in official canons, but in the whispers of the desert wind, in scrolls buried in clay jars, and in the memory of the soul itself, a revelation so profound it was deemed too dangerous for the world, not because it was false, but because it was liberating. Have you ever felt it? A quiet sense of incompleteness in the stories you were told. A feeling that a vital piece of the puzzle was intentionally removed, leaving a void where a deeper truth should be. This feeling is not a new one. It is an ancient echo, a memory of a wisdom that once flourished in the sun-scorched earth of ancient Judea, far from the crowds and the public parables. It was a knowledge shared in intimate circles, a sacred transmission between a master of light and his most perceptive disciple. A truth entrusted not to the architects of a future church, but to the heart of one woman, whose name and legacy were systematically buried to conceal the very key to our own spiritual sovereignty. Her name was Mary of Magdala. The official narrative has painted her as a penitent sinner, a footnote in a story dominated by men. But what if this was the greatest deception of all? What if the fragments of text that survived the flames of orthodoxy tell a different tale? They speak not of a broken woman, but of the apostle to the apostles, the one who understood the deepest mysteries of consciousness that the others could not grasp. They reveal her as the chosen inheritor of a forbidden wisdom, a series of revelations that did not build an institution, but instead dismantled the very need for one by placing the divine spark directly within the hands and heart of every human being. This is the story of that lost knowledge, of a truth so threatening to the structures of power that an entire world religion was built upon its suppression. It is a journey into the heart of a sacred partnership and the courageous effort to preserve a flame of gnosis, of direct inner knowing, against the encroaching darkness of dogmatic control. This is not just a historical inquiry, it is an act of spiritual archaeology, digging into the layers of what has been forgotten within our own collective consciousness. What would change if you discovered that the kingdom of heaven was never a place to be earned in the afterlife, but a state of being to be realized right here, right now? This quest for truth is not for the faint of heart. It asks you to question the very foundations of what you believe, to look beyond the veil of accepted history, and to listen to the quiet voice within that has always known there was more. The revelations we are about to explore are not just information, they are an activation, a remembrance of a legacy that flows in your spiritual DNA. If this ancient echo resonates within you, if you feel the call to uncover the truths that have been deliberately buried, then your journey begins now. Subscribe to our channel and join the awakening. The secrets of the Magdalene are waiting to be remembered. To understand the truth that was buried, we must journey back to the days that followed the cross, to a world trembling with uncertainty. The air in Jerusalem was thick not with revelation, but with fear and confusion. The disciples, once followers of a living light, were now scattered men, haunted by grief and the ever-present shadow of Roman authority. In the quiet, dusty rooms where they gathered, the seeds of a profound schism were being sown, not in open rebellion, but in the subtle divergence of memory and meaning. This was the moment when a movement of spiritual awakening began its slow, inexorable transformation into a religion of control. It was here, in the silence left by their master's departure, that the battle for the soul of the future began. What did he truly intend for them? Was it a kingdom built on earth with stone and hierarchy, or a kingdom realized within the heart? Two distinct paths began to emerge from this crucible of sorrow. One was the path of Peter, the rock, a path of structure, of community, of building a fortress to protect the message from the storms of the world. It was a practical vision, born of a fierce loyalty and a desperate need to hold the flock together. It sought to create a unified creed, a set of rules and rituals that could be passed down through generations, ensuring the survival of a legacy. But there was another path, a quieter, more luminous current, carried not by the architects of a future church, but in consciousness of Mary of Magdala. She held not a doctrine, but a living flame. She had understood the Master's words not as laws to be obeyed, but as keys to unlock the very fabric of reality. She carried the memory of a deeper, more dangerous knowledge, a truth not meant for the masses, but for those ready to undertake the arduous journey of inner transformation. The conflict did not erupt on a battlefield, but in a whispered conversation, a moment of profound spiritual confrontation preserved in the fragile pages of her own lost gospel. After the Master's departure, Mary gathered the grieving disciples and shared with them a vision, a secret teaching she had received in private about the soul's ascent past the celestial gatekeepers of fear and illusion. It was a teaching of pure gnosis, of direct experiential knowing. But Peter, representing the burgeoning order, could not accept it. His voice, heavy with doubt and jealousy, cut through the sacred air. Did the teacher truly speak with a woman in private, revealing things he did not share with them? In that single question, the schism was laid bare. It was the clash between external authority and inner revelation, between the structure of belief and the freedom of direct experience. Why was one woman's wisdom so threatening that an entire empire of thought would be built to silence it? The answer lies not in spiritual disagreement, but in the architecture of power. An institution built to mediate between God and humanity requires a populace that believes itself to be separate from the divine. It needs followers who are dependent, who see themselves as sinners in need of an external savior, a priest, a church. The forbidden truth that Mary Magdalene carried was a declaration of spiritual sovereignty. It proclaimed that the kingdom of heaven was not a distant reward to be earned through obedience, but a state of consciousness to be accessed directly within each and every soul. This ancient wisdom rendered the entire edifice of religious hierarchy obsolete. It placed the keys to the kingdom not in the hands of a chosen few, but within the heart of all. A humanity awakened to its own indwelling divinity is ungovernable. This was the true heresy they sought to destroy, not a false doctrine, but a liberating truth that would dismantle the very foundation of their control. And so began the Great Forgetting, a systematic campaign of erasure that spanned centuries. It was a slow, methodical rewriting of history, a war waged on memory itself. The first casualty was the sacred feminine. The concept of Sophia, the feminine face of divine wisdom, was exiled from the heart of Western spirituality. Then came the character assassination of Mary herself. The apostle to the apostles, the one who understood the deepest mysteries, was slowly and deliberately conflated with other women from the Gospels. Her identity blurred until she was remade into the singular image of a penitent prostitute, a broken vessel saved by male authority. Her legacy as a powerful spiritual teacher was not just ignored. It was meticulously dismantled and replaced with a cautionary tale. What was so dangerous about her light that they felt compelled to shroud it in such darkness, to turn the guardian of a profound legacy into a symbol of shame? This spiritual suppression was solidified in councils and creeds, in the smoke of burning scrolls. Imagine libraries set ablaze, not by barbarian hordes, but by men in robes, acting in the name of God. The selection of a canonical scripture was not an act of divine inspiration alone, it was an act of exclusion. Gospels that spoke of the divine spark within, of the soul's journey through multiple lives, of the sacred partnership between the masculine and feminine principles, were declared heresy. They were hunted, confiscated, and turned to ash. This was a war of narratives, a battle to control the very definition of reality, an entire ocean of hidden knowledge and ancestral wisdom was drained away, leaving behind a desert of dogma. The system they built was founded not just on what it proclaimed, but more importantly, on what it chose to forget. What other truths about our own power are still buried beneath the foundations of that ancient empire, yet a flame that is truly eternal cannot be extinguished. It can only be hidden. Despite the fires, the edicts, and the centuries of silence, the truth survived. It flowed like a secret river beneath the surface of official history, carried in the whispers of Gnostic communities, preserved in the coded language of alchemy, and passed down through mystery schools that dared to remember what the world had been forced to forget. This forgotten legacy was a time capsule of the soul, a memory waiting for the right moment to re-emerge. And then, in the middle of the 20th century, a discovery in the sands of Egypt would change everything. A clay jar, sealed for nearly 2,000 years, was unearthed, containing the very texts they had tried to erase from existence. Was this merely an archaeological accident? Or was it an appointment with destiny, a sign that humanity was finally ready to hear the secrets that Mary of Magdala had guarded for so long? The mystery of her wisdom was not over. It was only just beginning to unfold. The desert does not forget. It holds memory in its grains of sand, in the deep silence between gusts of wind, and in the earth that cradles the secrets of empires long turned to dust. For nearly 2 millennia, the official story was the only one told, carved in the stone of cathedrals and written on the vellum of authorized scripture. But in 1945, near the town of Nag Hammadi in Upper Egypt, the desert decided it was time to speak. It was not a king or a scholar who unearthed this truth, but a local farmer whose discovery of a sealed clay jar was not an accident, but an appointment. An act of ancestral memory breaking through the crust of the modern world. Inside that jar lay a library of the soul, a collection of 52 texts that had been condemned, hunted, and believed to be lost forever in the fires of orthodoxy. This was the first proof, not a theory or a myth, but a physical testament. A whisper from the earth itself, confirming that another story, a deeper truth, had indeed survived. Among these brittle papyrus scrolls, written in the ancient Coptic language, was a text that sent a tremor through the foundations of history, the Gospel of Mary. When we open these fragile pages, we are not reading a biography, but witnessing a moment of profound spiritual transmission. The text describes Mary of Magdala after the Master's departure, not as a grieving penitent, but as a pillar of strength and a source of esoteric knowledge. She is the one who comforts the fearful and confused male disciples, reminding them of the indestructible light that resides within. She then shares with them a private teaching, a secret revelation given to her, alone about the nature of consciousness and the soul's perilous yet triumphant ascent through the plains of reality. It is here that we find the documented source of the schism. Peter, unable to accept her authority, challenges her directly. Did he really speak with a woman in private apart from us? That question, preserved in faded ink, is the echo of the conflict that would define the next 2,000 years. It is the moment a legacy of inner knowing was rejected in favor of an external hierarchy. The evidence does not rest on a single manuscript. Another scroll from that same clay jar, known as the Gospel of Philip, deepens the mystery and reinforces the unique spiritual status of the Magdalene. It speaks of the sacred partnership in language that is both intimate and cosmic. It describes Mary as the Master's companion, the one he loved more than all the other disciples, and the one he often kissed. Scribes and theologians have long debated the meaning of this passage, often through a modern lens of romantic love. But the Gnostic tradition understood this kiss not as a profane act, but as a sacred transmission of spirit, of breath, of gnosis itself. It was a symbol of the union of the divine masculine and feminine principles, a passing of light from one enlightened consciousness to another. This was not a secret affair to be hidden. It was a model of spiritual partnership, a truth so profound and balanced that a patriarchal system built on celibacy and the suppression of the feminine could not allow it to stand. This pattern of Mary's preeminence is not an anomaly. It is a consistent theme woven throughout the suppressed scriptures. In another profound Gnostic text, the Pistis Sophia, or faith wisdom, we see this dynamic unfold over hundreds of pages. In this extensive dialogue between the resurrected teacher and his disciples, it is Mary Magdalene who asks the most insightful questions, who demonstrates the deepest understanding, and who receives the most detailed answers. She speaks more than all the other disciples combined, acting as the primary interlocutor for the divine. This text portrays her not merely as a favored student, but as a soul who had already achieved a high degree of spiritual maturity, one who could grasp the subtle mechanics of the cosmos that the others struggled to comprehend. This collection of forgotten knowledge, when viewed together, paints a clear and undeniable portrait of a spiritual giant, a master in her own right, whose role was not just erased, but intentionally and systematically inverted. But not all proof is written on papyrus. When an entire continent of wisdom is set ablaze, its knowledge does not simply vanish. It flows into other forms, like water seeking new channels. This ancient wisdom survived in the coded language of alchemy, in the star charts of astrologers who saw the cosmos as a living being, and in the secret rituals of mystery schools that operated in the shadows of empires. It was carried in the oral traditions of heretical sects like the Cathars of southern France, who revered the Magdalene and the principle of gnosis, and who were brutally exterminated for their beliefs. This legacy was preserved in symbols, the rose, the chalice, the vesica piscis, all pointing to the sacred feminine and the hidden knowledge she protected. These are the footprints of a truth that refused to die, a testament to the resilience of a wisdom so vital that generations of guardians were willing to sacrifice their lives to pass the flame hand to hand through the long, dark night of forgetting. What this body of evidence reveals is not a scattered collection of fringe beliefs, but a coherent and powerful spiritual path that ran parallel to the one that became official. This was not a heresy, it was a complete alternative. It offered a direct, personal, and liberating experience of the divine, one that did not require an intermediary or an institution. The discovery at Nag Hammadi was the physical key, but the corroborating traditions, symbols, and oral histories show us the full shape of the door it unlocks. The system did not suppress this knowledge because it was false. It suppressed it because it was true, and its truth was a declaration of spiritual independence for all humanity. We have seen the proof that a great truth was buried. We have seen how it survived. The question that now rises from the dust of these ancient scrolls is the one that truly matters. What are the secrets that Mary Magdalene fought so hard to protect? What was the forbidden knowledge that promised to set us all free? This is not a story etched in the stone of a distant past, waiting to be analyzed by historians and scholars. It is a memory living in your very cells, an echo in the quietest chambers of your heart. The suppression of Mary Magdalene's wisdom was not merely an act of rewriting history, it was an act of rewriting you. It was the deliberate severing of a connection to a part of your own soul, a campaign to make you forget the language your own spirit speaks. Have you ever felt it? A quiet ache for a home you cannot name, a sense of being an exile in your own life, a feeling that the answers you seek from the world outside are a pale reflection of a truth that already burns within you. This feeling is not a weakness, it is a homing signal. It is the forgotten legacy of the Magdalene, stirring from its long slumber. Inside of you, reminding you that a vital part of your own divine map was torn away. The architects of this great forgetting understood a simple, terrible truth. A human being who knows their own inner divinity cannot be controlled. A soul that has direct access to the source of creation needs no intermediary, no priest, no institution to tell them who they are or what they are worth. And so they built a world designed to make you look everywhere but within. They constructed towering cathedrals to draw your gaze upward and outward so you would forget the sacred temple that exists within your own being. They gave you doctrines of original sin so you would believe you were born broken and in need of external salvation. They replaced the path of direct knowing, of gnosis, with a path of blind faith, turning a journey of inner awakening into a system of obedience. They did not just hide a truth, they created a void and filled it with fear, dependency, and the illusion of separation from God. This ancient wisdom, the knowledge Mary Magdalene guarded, was a map back to the inner kingdom. It did not speak of a distant, patriarchal God seated on a celestial throne, judging the world. It spoke of the divine as a living, breathing presence that permeates all of reality, a presence that is not separate from you, but is the very essence of you. The secrets she received were not commandments to be followed, but vibrational keys designed to unlock the dormant potentials of human consciousness. They were a guide to navigating the inner landscape, to facing the gatekeepers of your own fear and doubt, the archons, as the Gnostics called them, and to ascending through the layers of the false self until you merge with the eternal light of your true nature. This was a path of remembrance, a process of shedding all the identities you were told you were, to finally remember the divine being you have always been. And yet, after 2,000 years of enforced silence, this memory is stirring. In a world saturated with noise, distraction, and external authority, a silent rebellion is taking place. It is happening in the hearts of millions who are turning away from the hollow promises of the old systems and beginning the arduous, beautiful journey inward. This is the Great Awakening. The re-emergence of these forbidden texts was not a coincidence. The whispers of the Magdalene are not returning by chance. They are returning now because humanity has reached a critical point in its evolution, a moment where it must either remember its true nature or lose itself completely in the labyrinth of its own creation. Why does this forgotten legacy call to you with such urgency, right here, right now? Because your soul remembers the time when this knowledge was not hidden, and it knows that the key to healing our fractured world lies in restoring this sacred inner balance. The wisdom she guarded was not a single doctrine, but a living map of the soul's journey home. It was delivered in stages, in layers of revelation that corresponded to a person's readiness to receive them. These are the 7 secrets. They are not pieces of information to be memorized, but portals to be entered. Each secret is a key, a frequency that dissolves a specific layer of illusion that keeps humanity trapped in a cycle of suffering and forgetting. The first keys unlock the prison of the material world, teaching the soul to see beyond the veil of form. The next keys provide the tools to confront the inner demons of fear, shame, and judgment. They are a step-by-step guide to reclaiming your spiritual sovereignty, a process of initiation into the mystery of your own being. But to turn these keys is to commit an act of rebellion. It is a rebellion not against any person or institution, but against the very foundation of fear upon which the old world was built. It is to declare that you are no longer a subject in a kingdom of external power, but the sovereign of your own inner world. This is why this hidden knowledge was considered so dangerous. It dismantles the illusion of powerlessness. It reveals that you are not a helpless pawn in a cosmic game, but a co-creator of reality itself, endowed with the same creative fire that birthed the stars. And while all the secrets are powerful, there is one that was guarded more fiercely than the rest, for its revelation did not just challenge the system, it annihilated the very premise upon which it was built. Some keys unlock doors, but one, the third secret, shatters the entire building. It is the one they feared the most because it could not be co-opted, distorted, or turned into a new religion. It is a truth so simple and yet so profoundly liberating that an entire empire of control was constructed to conceal it. It is a revelation so pure, it dissolves the very concept of separation between you and the divine, erasing the distance that has caused so much suffering for millennia. This is the secret that lies at the heart of the Gnostic flame, the truth Mary Magdalene risked everything to protect. Are you prepared to receive a knowledge that, once heard, can never be unheard? The answer lies at the very heart of the mystery they tried to bury forever. Of all the truths entrusted to her, of all the layers of revelation she received in the quiet moments away from the world, there was one that formed the heart of the flame she was sworn to protect. It was not a complex cosmological map, nor a set of intricate rituals. The most dangerous secrets are never complicated. They are instead terrifyingly simple. They are the truths that once seen cannot be unseen. The revelations that do not just offer a new perspective, but detonate the very ground upon which all old perspectives were built. This was the point of no return. It was the knowledge that, if released into the world, would not just challenge the burgeoning church, it would render its entire existence meaningless. It was the third of the 7 secrets, the one they feared above all others, for it was a key that did not merely unlock a door, but dissolved the very walls of the prison itself. This is the revelation that was systematically hunted, burned, and buried under 2 millennia of dogma. The secret is not a parable to be interpreted, but a statement of cosmic fact, a direct transmission of gnosis that bypasses the intellect and speaks directly to the soul's deepest memory. The third secret is this: you are not a sinner seeking a distant God. You are a spark of God remembering itself. Read those words again, not with your mind, but with the ancient knowing part of you that has felt this truth in the silence between your heartbeats. It is not a promise of future salvation. It is a declaration of your eternal nature, right here, right now. You were never cast out of the garden. You were simply taught to believe you were, convinced to forget the paradise that has always existed within the temple of your own being. Do you see now why this was the ultimate heresy? An entire world religion was being constructed upon a single foundational premise: the separation between humanity and the divine. This separation is what gives the system its power. It creates the need for an intermediary, a priest to hear your confession, a sacrament to purify your soul, a church to bridge the terrifying gap between you and your Creator. It is a business model for the spirit, built on the currency of fear and the promise of a salvation that is always just out of reach. But the third secret annihilates this premise completely. If you are a spark of the divine, then you require no intermediary. If the kingdom of heaven is within you, then you need no external building to enter it. If you are not born broken, then you need no one outside of yourself to fix you. This one truth did not just question their authority. It exposed the entire edifice of religious control as a magnificent soul-crushing illusion. This was the core of the Gnostic vision, the living heart of the wisdom Mary Magdalene carried. They understood that the human condition was not one of sin, but of amnesia. We are divine beings who have fallen into a deep slumber, dreaming that we are merely mortal, trapped in a world of matter and decay. The Master, in their view, was not a savior who came to pay a debt for our sins, but an awakener, a luminous consciousness who came to remind us of our true origin, to sound a note so pure it would stir. The divine spark sleeping within every soul. And Mary, his companion, was the one who heard that note most clearly. She was the first to fully remember, the first to awaken from the dream, and therefore she was the one best equipped to teach others the path of remembrance. Her gospel was not a set of laws, but a guide for this awakening. What happens in your life right now, the moment you stop treating this revelation as a beautiful idea and start living it as your deepest reality? The entire dynamic of your existence inverts. Prayer is no longer a petition sent to a distant celestial monarch. It becomes a dialogue with the divine intelligence that animates your very cells. Morality is no longer a matter of obeying external commandments to avoid punishment. It becomes the natural expression of a soul that recognizes the divinity in all beings because it has first recognized it in itself. The search for purpose is no longer a desperate hunt for meaning in a chaotic world. It becomes the simple, joyful act of allowing the unique signature of your divine spark to express itself, unhindered by fear and self-doubt. You cease to be a seeker because you realize you are, and always have been, that which you were seeking. This is the great inversion of power they fought so hard to prevent. A humanity that remembers its own divinity is a humanity that cannot be enslaved, manipulated, or controlled by any external authority, be it religious or political. Such a humanity would build a world based not on competition and scarcity, but on collaboration and the recognition of a shared divine source. It would treat the earth not as a resource to be exploited, but as a living, sacred expression of the same intelligence that breathes through them. This is the world that was lost when Mary's legacy was buried. The consequences of this suppression are written in the pages of our history, in the wars waged in the name of a God of separation, in the desecration of nature, and in the quiet despair of billions of souls taught to look for their power everywhere but within. The rediscovery of this hidden knowledge is therefore not an act of historical curiosity. It is an act of planetary healing, a reclamation of a truth so fundamental that its absence has left our world dangerously out of balance. We have unearthed the secret that shatters the foundation of the old world. We have seen the power it holds to restore our spiritual sovereignty. But this is only the beginning of the journey. If this third secret is the key that liberates the soul from its self-imposed prison, what then? What do the final four secrets reveal? They are not abstract concepts. They are the sacred technology of the soul, a practical map for how to navigate reality as an awakened being, how to wield the creative power of consciousness, and how to complete the soul's final triumphant ascent back to the source. The prison door is open. The question now is, what will you build in the world beyond its walls? The dust of 2 millennia begins to settle, not on a forgotten tomb in a distant land, but within the sacred landscape of your own awareness. We have journeyed together through the shadows of history, following a trail of whispers left in brittle papyrus and carried in the memory of the earth itself. We have stood in the presence of a great schism, witnessing the moment a liberating truth was deemed too dangerous for the world. We have seen how the legacy of Mary of Magdalene, the guardian of a Gnostic flame, was not merely lost, but deliberately buried, her image remade from a master of wisdom into a symbol of shame. This was not a simple act of rewriting history. It was the systematic severing of humanity from its own divine feminine heart, an act of spiritual amputation that has left our world profoundly out of balance. The revelation we have unearthed is not just her story. It is the missing chapter of our own. Her exile was our exile. Her silencing was the silencing of the intuitive, knowing voice within each of us. And at the very center of this storm of forgetting, we found the eye of the hurricane, the still point of a truth so simple, so pure, it had the power to dismantle an empire of control before it was even built. The forbidden truth, the third secret, was never a secret from you. It was a secret about you. That you are not a fallen creature, born into sin and desperately seeking a distant God. You are a spark of God remembering itself. You are not a broken vessel seeking repair from an outside authority. You are the divine ocean, dreaming that it is a single, separate wave. This is the gnosis they feared. This is the memory they tried to erase. Because a soul awakened to this reality can no longer be governed by fear, manipulated by guilt, or controlled by the promise of a salvation that is perpetually withheld. It is a declaration of spiritual independence, a reclamation of the power that was and always has been your divine birthright. This knowledge is not an artifact to be placed in a museum of the mind. It is a living key, a vibrational tool for the transformation of your life. Right now. The 7 secrets are not a historical curiosity. They are a map for your own inner awakening. To live this truth is to invert your entire world. Fear, the currency of all systems of control, is seen for what it is: an archon, a gatekeeper of illusion that has no power over a soul that remembers its own light. The search for purpose is no longer a desperate chase for external validation, but the simple, joyful act of allowing your unique divine signature to flow into the world. Prayer ceases to be a petition to a celestial king and becomes a conversation with the intelligence that animates the cosmos and beats your own heart. This is the path the Magdalene walked. It is not a path of belief, but of direct experience. A journey from the amnesia of the conditioned self back to the luminous memory of the soul. The consequences of this great forgetting are written across the face of our world. A planet groaning under the weight of imbalance, a humanity disconnected from nature and from each other, a spiritual hunger that no amount of material consumption can ever satisfy. All of it stems from this one foundational lie, that we are separate from the divine. The rediscovery of Mary Magdalene's wisdom is therefore not a retreat into the past, but a radical act of healing for the future. To reclaim her legacy is to reclaim the sacred feminine principle that has been exiled for too long. It is to restore the balance between intuition and intellect, being and doing, heart and mind. The healing of our world does not begin in the halls of power or the edicts of institutions. It begins with the quiet, courageous revolution of one soul after another, remembering its own sacred, indestructible nature. This journey does not end here. In truth, it has only just begun. What has been awakened within you is not just information, but a resonance, an ancient memory stirring from a long sleep. It may feel comforting, it may feel unsettling, but above all, it feels true. Now this truth asks something of you. It asks you to become its guardian, to tend to this relit flame within your own heart and to protect it from the winds of doubt and distraction. We leave you with a question, not for your mind, but for the silent, knowing part of your soul. If you were to fully embrace this truth today, that a spark of the divine is your truest identity, what is the one fear you would finally have the courage to release? Share your reflection in the comments below and let us bear witness to each other's awakening. This knowledge is a living fire. It grows brighter when it is shared. If this ancient wisdom has touched your heart, help us pass the flame to those who are ready to look beyond the veil. Share this revelation and subscribe to our channel to continue this sacred journey into the mysteries that await, The greatest act of rebellion in a world of forgetting is to remember, and the most profound truth was never hidden in a buried scroll or a forgotten gospel. It has been waiting, patiently, in the one place they never thought to control, the one temple they could never tear down, inside you,